Hey guys, Jakey from Jake's Opinion, round 17 footy tips this week. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly because I'm not feeling 100% this week. I've got a bit of a cold, but we'll get straight into it right now. First game is tonight, Geelong v Essendon. I'm going to tip Essendon for this game. They're just a better team at the moment. Geelong were pretty average last week. I think that's it possibly for Geelong maybe. The era of dominating and premierships might just be over. I'm a bit worried because when you see them playing, even if they do win, it's their older players like Chapman and Bartel and that kind of get the job done. I don't really see much from the youngsters apart from Motlop, so that's kind of where the improvement needs to be if they want to make the finals. Because if they lose this, they've got a very hard run for the next 4 or 5 weeks, so they're going to have to lift their game. But Essendon have got some good ins in Cramry, so he's going to be back, so that should stretch Geelong's backline a bit. The next game is Collingwood v Hawthorn. This is obviously match of the round, two biggest teams in Melbourne at the moment. Collingwood getting the job done weekly now, apart from that hiccup against Carlton a couple of weeks back. And Hawthorn, well, they're just in amazing form, especially even without Lance Franklin, which I think may be the difference this week. I think that without Franklin, they are going to lose. I think Collingwood will have too much for them, but it should be a really good game regardless. And Hawthorn did get them earlier in the year in round 1, so they'd be pretty confident this time around too. The next game is Adelaide v West Coast. Now, a couple of weeks back, this might have been a bit of a closer game, but I think after watching West Coast last week at Subi against Sydney, their injuries seem to be taking a bit of a toll. I'm not sure if they can beat Adelaide in Adelaide. It'd be a great effort if they could, but Adelaide's form has been pretty amazing at Amy Stadium, just as good as West Coast is at Subiaco, so it's going to be a big test for them, and another close game I hope, but I'm going to be safe and tip Adelaide for that one. Next one is Gold Coast. The winners from last week against Richmond. Yeah, Richmond supporters, just, get back in your shells this week, just take it easy. It's going to be a good game though. Gold Coast, Brisbane. I don't know how Brisbane are red hot favourites. $1.28 to $3.70 when Gold Coast had a great win last week, and they could well beat them. They've beaten Brisbane before, they beat them last year. So they could go for 2 in a row, Gold Coast. Brisbane were pretty good against St Kilda last week. They were unlucky to lose. Someone had to lose really, and it was them. So it's going to be a close game, I think. But Brisbane just. Next game is Bulldogs v Carlton. I'm going to tip Carlton for this one. Bulldogs, no forward line. I know Carlton's forward line's not that great either, but at least they have Eddie Betts and Garland and Yarra running off half back, and the midfield's okay. And they're not going to have any Chris Judd this week because of what he did, the chicken wing thing last week, got 4 weeks I think it was. So that's going to leave their midfield a bit open, but I think even so they should beat Bulldogs. If they don't, then they will not make finals. Their year's over if they don't win. The next game is Melbourne v Port. I'm going to tip Port for this one. Melbourne were pretty good last week against Freo. Surprisingly, I was barracking for them for most of the game, and then the last quarter just got really frustrating because they just fell over and Freo just took control. Though if they do that for the first 3 quarters against Port, I expect Port to be out of the game by then, but if they don't, they're just going to watch themselves because the last quarters have been pretty average. In a few games that they've had a chance of winning, it's the last quarter that they've fallen apart. But I think Port. Next game is Sydney v St Kilda, another big game. I'm going to tip Sydney for this one just because it's at the SCG. They had a really big win against West Coast. I tipped West Coast. I don't know why now that I'm thinking about it, because West Coast had a lot of players out. No, not taking anything away from Sydney, but they got West Coast on a really good day, and they've been in good form themselves. So when you put those two things together, they're going to win pretty easily, even at Subiaco. But St Kilda, they've been in some good form themselves. They smashed Essendon, and then they followed up the job against Brisbane. Another good effort. 2 weeks in a row they're travelling, although Sydney have to fly back from Perth and Saints just have to travel from Brisbane to Sydney, so not a big trip, so that may be put in their favour with the return of Jack Stephen and Brendan Goddard potentially. But at the SCG, I think Sydney may just win, but if you're going to put a risk for this week and maybe put some money on someone that is an underdog, St Kilda at $3.10 isn't a bad go for that one. Next game is Richmond v North, another big game. I'm going to tip North for this one. They've been in pretty amazing form for the past 4 or 5 weeks, apart from that hiccup against West Coast. But even then, they were good for four quarters. Just unlucky at the end there. But Richmond, coming off the back of a loss to Gold Coast, it can either really break them or kind of pump them up to just dominate for the rest of the year. And I don't know if they're at that point yet. I think they're still a young group where those sort of losses may just kind of kill them. They may win this, but I think with the form lately, you'd have to tip North Melbourne. And the last game of the round is Freo v GWS. Yeah. GWS have lost by 120 plus points in the past 2 weeks, I'm pretty sure. It may happen again at Subiaco, so Freo for me. And that's it for my round 17 footy tips. Comment below, let me know who you are tipping. Like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks very much.